Hello, my name is Dr. Rick Hoffman and I teach theory at Belmont University. This video and the ones that follow provide an overview of major and minor scales and key signatures. A musical scale is a collection of pitches, usually arranged in ascending order and filling the span of an octave. There are many ways to understand scales and literally hundreds of scales used in music around the world. There are major scales and minor scales, the chromatic scale, the whole tone scale, octatonic scales, scales used in folk music, and some scales that we can't even represent with our Western notation. We will focus on the two most common in Western tonal music, the major scale and the minor scale. In this video, we'll look only at major scales. One way a major scale can be understood is based on the intervals between pitches. The major scale can be thought of as a pattern of major and minor seconds, or whole and half steps like this. Whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. Notice the half steps between 3 and 4 and between 7 and 8. Here's how the scale looks and sounds on the keyboard. Again, notice the half steps between E and F and B and C. These half steps help create the sense of tension and release in tonal music, as Fa tends to fall down to Mi and T is pulled up to Do. Sometimes we call Fa and T tendency tones because we expect them to resolve in certain ways. This is also why we can talk about music as moving or chords as resolving. This pattern can be moved to begin on any pitch, the note we call tonic. But in order for the pattern of whole and half steps to work out correctly, we need to use accidentals to raise or lower the pitches by a half step. For example, here's the pattern beginning on G. Notice the half steps between 3 and 4 and 7 and 8. And here it is on the keyboard. Here, for example, is the pattern beginning on E flat. Again, note the location of the half steps. Now, of course, we don't usually stop and work out the pattern of whole and half steps each time we write a scale. There are some other patterns that will simplify the process and help us learn the pitches in each scale. If we arrange the scale tonics by perfect fifths, a pattern in the accidentals emerges. A scale on C, of course, requires no accidentals. The scale on G requires an F sharp to make the correct pattern. The scale on D requires an F sharp and a C sharp. The scale on A requires an F sharp, a C sharp, and a G sharp. An E scale requires an F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, and D sharp. If we continue through B major, F sharp major, and C sharp major, the pattern continues, adding the sharps in the order. F, C, G, D, A, E, and finally for C sharp major, F, C, G, D, A, E, B. Notice that along the way, we always added the sharps in the same order. F, C, G, D, A, E, and B. So if we say the key of E has 4 sharps, it isn't just any 4 sharps, it has to be the first 4 sharps. F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, and D sharp. If we say the key of B has 5 sharps, we mean specifically F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, and A sharp. Since the accidentals are always added in the same order, it's become the convention to show them at the beginning of the staff in a key signature. So 1 sharp, is always F sharp, represents a G major scale. Two sharps, always F sharp and C sharp, would stand for a D major scale, and so on. Here's the E major scale with the accidentals written in, and now here's the same scale with a key signature. Notice the four sharps are added in order, F, C, G, and D. So the key signature takes all the accidentals that are needed in a particular scale and moves them to the beginning of the line, always writing them in the same order, and just writing as many as are needed for that particular scale. For some scales, we have to use flats to get the right pitches. We sometimes call these flat keys to distinguish them from the sharp keys we've been talking about. For example, to make an F major scale, we need to add a B flat. If B flat is the tonic, we need to add a B flat and an E flat. If E flat's the tonic, we need B flat, E flat, and A flat. For an A flat tonic, we need B flat, E flat, A flat, and D flat. If D major is the tonic, we need B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat. For G flat major, and finally for C flat major, all 7 flats. Notice the order for adding the flats: B, E, A, D, G, C, F. Take a minute to compare the flat key signature to the sharp key signature. Notice that the order of sharps is reversed for flats. There are some little mnemonic sayings that might help. One I learned in college for sharps was, "Fat cats go down alleys eating bugs." F, C, G, D, A, E, B. Thanks to my classmate Cindy, that still runs through my head whenever I write a key signature. There's one little sentence that works both ways. For sharps, Father Charles goes down and ends battle, and then backwards, battle ends and down goes Charles' father. I don't know that that makes a lot of sense, but it might help you remember the order. There are lots of other suggestions online, or you can make up your own. In just a little time, writing the key signatures and knowing the correct order will be second nature, and you should practice it until it is. It's important to know. Once we understand how these patterns work, it's very easy to look at the key signature and recognize what scale those accidentals would create. Here, for example, is the key signature for the A-flat major scale. And when we apply those 4 flats to the pitches starting on A-flat, we make an A-flat major scale. Here's the key signature for D major. And again, we apply those accidentals to the pitches, and we have a D major scale. I know there are tricks and ways to remember the key signatures, but I would strongly encourage you to simply memorize them. There are too many occasions when you need to know what a key signature would look like without being able to see it, or you need to look at accidentals in the music and be able to visualize or imagine what the key signature would be. Memorizing key signatures is a far better solution. And memorizing isn't too hard if you learn a few at a time, and whenever possible, connect it to the music you're playing. Flashcards work well, and there are lots of websites that have helpful drills you might try. It's important to understand one other thing right from the beginning. Key and key signatures are not the same thing. Key signatures don't actually tell you what key the music is in. They're a shorthand way to suggest a certain scale is being used, or to show that these pitches would be in a particular key. But key is the way music sounds. Let's consider this example. The key signature is 2 flats and would suggest B flat major. But the music includes an A flat, and most important, it sounds like E flat is the tonic. If we look at the notes in the melody and arrange them as a scale, it's clear that the music is in the key of E flat. A key signature is a way of writing music so that accidentals don't have to be written over and over and over again. Usually the key signature matches the key, at least in the beginning of a piece, but even this isn't always true. Determining what key music is in can be quite complex and is a big part of studying music theory. For now, it's enough to remember that key and key signature just don't mean the same thing. Key signature is a way of writing music. It suggests what key or scale is being used, but it doesn't tell us anything by itself. The actual key is based on how the music sounds, what pitches are actually used in the music. It may sound like I'm splitting hairs here, but the distinction is very important and something you'll talk a lot more about in later theory courses. So to summarize, the major scale is a pattern of whole and half steps. And we use accidentals to recreate this pattern beginning on any pitch. Key signatures show us what accidentals are used in a particular scale. Accidentals in the key signature are always added in a particular order. F, C, G, D, A, E, and B for sharps, B, E, A, D, G, C, F for flats. And this is best seen if we arrange all the tonics by fifths. If we put these tonics around a circle, we make the so-called circle of fifths. This diagram shows all the major keys, sharps on the right going around clockwise, flats on the left going around counterclockwise. Now there's nothing magical about the circle of fifths, but it's a handy way to arrange the keys based on the pattern created by the key signatures and may help you remember the key signatures or visualize the relationships. Ultimately, you should be able to use all this information to know what pitches are in each scale, or if you see a part of a scale or see a piece of music, you should be able to determine the scale being used by the pitches that you see. So that's our introduction to major scales and key signatures. I'm Dr. Rick Hoffman at Belmont University, and thank you for watching.